you indulge me as I read this excerpt from Ninja Theory's Wikipedia page? Sony Computer Entertainment saved the team from bankruptcy by funding the development of Heavenly Sword, which became an expensive project. The game's poor sales resulted in Ninja Theory losing all of their in-house technologies because of contractual agreements with Sony. The team then moved on to develop Enslaved: Odyssey to the West, an underperforming project in collaboration with writer Alex Garland, and DMC Devil May Cry, whose design was highly controversial, resulting in the team receiving death threats. What a run! What an amazing cornerstone of 7th gen goodness. You go, girl. Give us nothing. Heavenly Sword has you play as Naruko, who unsheathed the titular weapon, said her catchphrase of "It's swording time," and totally sworded over all those fools. You see, the Heavenly Sword has a magical power. When you use it, the frame rate gets even choppier. Yeah, this is the calling card of 7th gen games. The performance is compromised by the push for increased graphical fidelity. All credit where credit is due. The facial motion capture on Naruko is very impressive. This is the hardest shit to do, and while I maybe don't need all the obvious acting directly to the camera that happens, the game pulls it off in many cutscenes, outside of the snap-in facial emotion between cutscene and menu. Another feather in its presentation cap is the performance of Andy Serkis as main villain Lord Bohan. This may not surprise you, but the dude who did an all-star performance as Gollum in Lord of the Rings was able to nail another CG motion capture role. But all of this has a price, and it's game performance. This game runs like cock. The frame rate is so choppy that the hit stun from successfully striking enemies feels more like frame drops. It constantly feels like it is struggling to have any sort of stable frame rate during combat, and certain things, like using the ranged stance attacks, instantly make it feel worse. I know frame rate is one of those things that some people just do not have an issue with, and I apologize because I am one of those people who is more sensitive to it. But at the end of the day, it does not feel good in your hands to play an action hack and slash with a cumbersome and chugging frame rates. But if you can believe it, I am burying the lead on just how deliciously 7th gen this bad boy is. Let me guide you through the first 5 playable sections of Heavenly Sword. You start off in media res, single-handedly fighting off a gigantic army in a showcase that is supposed to impress, but it runs like the PS3 has been left in the oven too long, before flashing back to earlier. You do a small tutorial combat room to get you in touch with the base mechanics, and then I need you to guess. What is the most 7th gen thing that could happen next? If you're younger, you might be grasping at air, but if you were around for this era, you know deep down that the answer is a turret section with 6-axis control! You get to do regular combat again as you fight the enemies that got past your mad turret skills, which will be many of them because 6-axis controls like penis and the hitboxes on enemies will make you question reality. But wait, what's that I hear in the distance? It can't be. You're telling me that the next playable section is another turret section with even more mandatory 6-axis control! Good luck hitting literally any of these targets without that 6-axis, bitch! As a contemporary product, this is obviously embarrassing, but as a historical relic I did not pay full price for. Oh my fucking god, is this funny? The humor eventually passes as you realize, well, that's all the game really has. Combat in Heavenly Sword is one of the worst I've ever seen. It's totally boneless. Naruko has 3 stances: speed, ranged, and power, none of which feel particularly good thanks to the game having a crippling insecurity about not looking as cool as possible at every second. No shit, this kills the combat. You have 2 attack buttons, but they aren't like a heavy and a light. They're more like an attack 1 and attack 2, because a light attack would imply that it wouldn't be something totally wicked and flashy. Combat is a fucking crawl because every attack and combo blurs together thanks to it being a cacophony of flips and spins and sword tricks every time you press a couple buttons. It doesn't matter. The only unique attributes of combos is that some of them break guard. That's the only real utility difference. The combat feels so limp because instead of being a readable sequence of attacks, all the combos are enemy snapping bladed floor routines with little to no discernible reason to differentiate them. There is so little variance to these encounters. Every combat room is pretty much the exact same situation of needing to defeat 15 dudes before you can advance. Nothing is particularly built upon other than how each stance blocks each color of attack, and how you can counterattack if you time it right. And you learn that in the opening segments. But you will kick and scream and beg to return to this dour hacking and slashing when you realize the only other thing the game has to switch it up is more 6-axis projectile combat. If you thought Kai and her twing twang was just a momentary distraction, fucking buckle up. As the game advances, you start doing longer and longer sections as Kai, inhaling bullet time like she has a nozzle directly linked up to the fucking Matrix. It's not hyperbolic to say that Heavenly Sword has nothing going on for its gameplay. There was so much emphasis put on how cool everything looks, but nothing at all put on how cool any of it plays. It runs out of ideas pretty much from the start, and every attempt to break up the action, be that more 6-axis integration or QTE segments, will have you wishing you were chewing sand instead. For ages, I held Wet as the quintessential 7th gen slop game. Yet it's still a stone cold classic in that regard. But Heavenly Sword is the new King of the Mountain. Everyone needs to play this. If you have ever wondered why there is this pointed criticism of 7th gen in particular, this game will answer that question for you. It's pretty short, barely offers meaningful replay value, had an obvious prioritization on graphical fidelity over game performance. Dude, even in 2006, you can find posts from people who are unhappy the game is pushing graphical performance over high frame rates. Even back then, people were like, please, 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 just make the game 60 FPS. We do not care about how good it looks. Lacks any engaging gameplay, includes many embarrassing forms of gameplay, and just sometimes is embarrassing to be in the same room with. There is a juvenile tone to Heavenly Sword that does a lot more damage to the game than you might expect. I cannot put over Andy Serkis's performance enough. This dude is golden. But the work he puts in to portray Lord Bohan as a maniacal tyrant is severely undercut by how quippy, jokey the script for him is. He comes off less Manifest Destiny madness and more high on Galaxy Gas madness. It's honestly kind of deflating. Pairing that with stuff like Naruto's cinematic attacks being 50% made up of strikes to someone's balls, and it feels like they tried to make a serious, dramatic game but couldn't help themselves put in some type of cringy of its era humor. They really thought they were cooking something with this game. I wanted to call it modern Kusoge, and I hold to that. It's not unplayable or unbeatable, but it is absolutely poop from a butt the way that Kusoge may imply. It sucks all of the ass, and you should play it. Absolutely rancid game. Comes with my highest recommendation. The big question that was in my mind during much of Heavenly Sword was, hey, God of War 1 on PS2 is good, right? Lair is... oh god, how do I say this? Lair is a very sad game. This is one of the big early PS3 releases that was remembered and remembered for negative reasons. A dragon riding fantasy aerial combat game that I guess was trying to show off the power of the PS3 and completely died under that weight. It would be unprofessional to bury the lead. Lair runs like ass. It is one of the worst performing